Hi, hello, and welcome to NFL Total Access, presented by Payday. I'm Cole Wright, alongside the one and only Amber Theo Harris. And the word of the day, kids, it's trade. Seahawks, Texans, Dolphins, and the Kansas City Chiefs.
Also remember, it's cut-down day. LaShawn McCoy, one of the biggest names released. We'll tell you the others in just a bit.
That's right, busy day, but let's get right to a blockbuster deal between the Dolphins and the Texans. We're bringing our NFL Network insider, Ian Rappaport. You know him as Rap Sheet. So, Rap Sheet, I need some details, man. What are they?
A huge, big-time, franchise-altering trade for the Houston Texans and the Miami Dolphins. First of all, for the Texans, they get franchise left tackle Laremy Tunsil Kenny Stills and a couple draft picks. But clearly, Tunsil is the centerpiece of this deal, one of the best left tackles in football, someone who's due a huge extension, by the way. But this was all about protecting Deshaun Watson. Coach/general manager Bill O'Brien was not going to let Watson go another season without the proper protection. So that is what the Texans got, a huge, huge upgrade at a couple positions. Meanwhile, what the Miami Dolphins did was load up big time on draft picks, 2 first-round picks, and a second-rounder. I'm told that went to the Miami Dolphins. They are in full rebuild mode, and they have an incredible amount of artillery. 4 first-round picks over the next 2 drafts to build from.
Now you make mention of Bill O'Brien. He was a busy customer down there in the Lone Star State because this morning another monster move taking place. Jadeveon Clowney traded to the Seahawks. So, Rap Sheet, how'd that all transpire?
That's right. We heard so much about the Dolphins and a potential trade for Clowney, but he held the cards, the franchise tag pass rusher. He simply didn't want to go to Miami. He preferred Seattle. He preferred Philadelphia. Philadelphia clearly couldn't afford him. So this was about Seattle. This came together in the wee hours of the morning. Is a 3rd-round pick going to the Texans along with 2 players, 2 defensive players, linebackers who can rush the passer. But Clowney gets the place he wants. Seattle gets a big-time upgrade, someone to rush the passer. And the Texans kind of clear up that problem. Oh, by the way, the Texans also traded for Carlos Hyde. They filled a role at running back as well.
Just like that. Hard work never sleeps, and neither does our guy, Ian Rappaport. Rap, we'll check back in with you because it is cut-down day after all. Amber?
Well, Jim Trotter joining us now, and Tom Pelissero, he joked a little bit earlier in the day. He said if we want to know what kind of GM Bill O'Brien is, he's an NBA GM because 3 teams involved, very aggressive, a lot of players. But at the end of the day, if you're keeping score at home, what do we know about the Texans?
What do we know? That they're in win-now mode. You know, I talked to one personnel man who said, look, if you're going to give up 2 number ones and a number 2, typically that is only for a quarterback, and even then you would pause before pulling the trigger on it. So to do it for a left tackle at this point speaks to a level of desperation. But you know, Amber, even on the earlier deal with Jadeveon Clowney, that one was also curious from the standpoint they pulled off the trade at the time that they had the least amount of leverage. Go back to the process. If you have a franchise player, you have to determine at the start of the offseason whether or not he is going to be on your roster going forward. If you decide that he is not, you should trade him before the draft because that's when you have maximum leverage in terms of getting the most compensation. If you don't trade him by the draft, you need to move him before the deadline for signing franchise players to a long-term extension. Otherwise, they're on a 1-year deal. The Texans did neither of those things. Now, if we flip the script, the team that did really well, or the GM that really executed all of these offseason moves to perfection, was the Seahawks general manager, John Snyder.
So he wins today.
Absolutely.
He wins the day.
He wins the offseason, in my opinion, from this standpoint. He also had a franchise edge rusher. He made the decision that they were not going to pay top-of-the-market dollars to him on a long-term deal. So what did he do? He moved him before the draft. He got back a first. He got back a second. He was able to...
You're talking about Frank Clark.
I'm talking about
Yes.
Frank Clark. He was able to move $17 million off the book, which allowed him to, 1, sign his all-pro linebacker, Bobby Wagner, to an extension, use some of that money to sign Ziggy Ansah to a free agent deal, and went from having 4 draft picks, not much ammunition, to pulling in nearly a dozen draft picks. That's how you execute it.
All right, so the Seattle Seahawks, they get new life today as they get Jadeveon Clowney, and Russell Wilson is very happy to not have Clowney chasing him anymore. He tweeted this out this morning. As for the first quarterback to face Clowney in the Seahawks, well, that's Andy Dalton and the Bengals. They will get a very close look at Clowney. They open 1 week from today at CenturyLink Field. You know that's going to be loud, Cole.
Home of the